A millionaire woman threw a blind puppy off a bridge without hesitation. When a fisherwoman saved him, no one imagined the revelations that would come. Unknown sisters united by destiny, threatened traditions, and an animal that hides an extraordinary gift. A story about second chances and redemption that transformed an entire community. Get ready for an exciting journey that will touch your heart. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment on where you are watching from. The sun was beginning to set on the horizon of Coastal Cove, painting the sky with orange tones that reflected in the crystal-clear waters. A gentle breeze swayed the coconut palm leaves as the waves broke rhythmically against the reefs. In the distance, the bridge that connected the mainland to the small island stood out like a modern scar on the natural landscape. It was on this structure that a silver luxury car stopped abruptly, the roar of the engine ceasing suddenly. From inside the vehicle emerged a woman. The refinement of her clothes contrasted with the roughness of the sea wind that now disarranged her perfectly styled hair. In her trembling arms, a small dog stirred weakly. The animal's eyes, covered by a whitish film, betrayed its blindness. There was no curiosity or fear in that cloudy gaze, only resignation. The woman walked to the highest point of the bridge, her thin heels echoing against the concrete. For a moment, she hesitated. Her eyes, unlike the animal's, were perfectly lucid, calculating. She quickly checked if there were any witnesses. The sun sank deeper and deeper into the sea, as if it did not want to witness what was about to happen. Without further delay, the woman simply opened her arms. The small body of the dog traced a perfect curve in the air before crashing against the surface of the water. A sharp whimper cut through the silence, reverberating through the cliffs as if nature itself cried out in protest. The echo of that sound remained in the air as the woman quickly drove away in her gleaming automobile, leaving behind only a cloud of dust and the agonizing sound that dissipated. What she did not notice, however, was the small fishing boat that sailed silently near the bridge. At the oars was a young woman, with skin tanned by the sun and hands hardened by daily work. The fisherwoman had witnessed everything. Without thinking twice, she threw the oars aside and plunged into the cold sea waters. Her arms cut through the water with the precision of someone born by the ocean. In a few seconds, she reached the small animal that struggled weakly, its blind paws desperately searching for something solid. Gently, the fisherwoman lifted the dog against her chest and swam back to her boat. The animal's panting breath mingled with the sound of the waves and the woman's own accelerated breathing. "It's all right now, little one," she murmured, as she wrapped the dog in a rough blanket she kept in the boat. "You're safe." Anna was the name of the fisherwoman, known in Coastal Cove for her unwavering determination and for a sense of justice that often put her in conflict with local authorities. Many admired her courage, others considered her too stubborn. Regardless of opinions, everyone recognized her boundless generosity. It was common to see her sharing part of her catch with the neediest families, or helping elderly people carry their groceries up the steep hill leading to downtown. Despite living there for almost 10 years, Anna still carried the weight of being considered an outsider. In Coastal Cove, where traditional families had known each other for generations, 10 years was just a blink of an eye. This feeling of non-belonging was a silent wound that Anna hid behind her easy smile and tireless work. Now, rowing quickly towards the pier with the trembling puppy in her lap, Anna felt that something important had been placed in her path. She was not superstitious like many of the old residents who believed that the sea had its own will and sent signals through tides and storms. But at that moment, looking at the helpless little animal, she couldn't help but think that perhaps the ocean had indeed placed that creature in her life for some reason. Upon reaching the pier, she wasted no time. She wrapped the dog in the Utu blanket and ran across the beach towards the only veterinary clinic in the small town. The establishment was modest, like practically everything in Coastal Cove, but Dr. Paul had a reputation for being an excellent professional, despite limited resources. The bell on the door jingled as Anna entered the clinic breathlessly. Dr. Paul, a middle-aged man with graying hair and kind eyes behind thin-framed glasses, looked up from his papers. "Anna?" "What happened?" he asked, already getting up as he noticed the bundle in her arms. "Someone threw this dog off the bridge, doctor. I saw everything. Please help him," pleaded Anna, as she gently placed the animal on the examination table. The veterinarian frowned, an expression of disbelief quickly replaced by indignation. He examined the dog carefully, checking its vital signs, palpating its small body in search of fractures. "He's hypothermic but doesn't seem to have any serious fractures. It's a miracle considering the height of the fall," commented the doctor, as he dried the animal with a soft towel. It was during this initial examination that Dr. Paul made an interesting discovery. Passing a small device over the dog's body, the device emitted a sharp beep. "He has a microchip," announced the veterinarian, surprised. "Let's check who he belongs to." After a few minutes on the computer, Dr. Paul let out a low whistle of admiration. "Anna, this is no ordinary dog. It's a Canis ludens maritimus, an extremely rare breed. There are fewer than 300 catalogued specimens in the entire world." The fisherwoman's face showed confusion. "And that means—" "It means this puppy is worth more than my office and all the equipment combined," explained the veterinarian, adjusting his glasses. "But there's more. According to the records, he belongs to Caroline Vanderbilt." The name fell like a stone in the silence of the room. Caroline Vanderbilt was the heiress to the Vanderbilt hotel empire, known nationwide. In recent months, her presence had become constant in Coastal Cove, always accompanied by lawyers and engineers who took measurements and studies in the environmental preservation area near the beach, precisely where Anna and other traditional families had been, fishing for generations. "It was her," murmured Anna, feeling the blood boil in her veins. "She was the one who threw him off the bridge. I saw her, even from a distance." Dr. Paul seemed skeptical. "Anna, that's a very serious accusation. The Vanderbilt family has a lot of power and influence." The fisherwoman raised her chin, determined. "I know what I saw, doctor, and I won't be silent." While the veterinarian continued to care for the dog, now administering serum and medication to stabilize him, he told Anna another curiosity about that specific breed. "Did you know that the old residents of coastal regions believed that these dogs brought luck and prosperity? There are legends that say they were gifts from the sea to the most valiant fishermen." Anna smiled, gently stroking the head of the animal that was now sleeping, sedated. "The old ladies of the town will love that story." In the days that followed, the puppy, whom Anna named Mariner, became the center of attention in the small town. The fisherwoman, who had a modest profile on local social media, shared the rescue story, carefully omitting the identity of who had abandoned the animal. Photos of the small blind dog, with his cloudy eyes and sweet expression, quickly won the hearts of the residents. As predicted, the elderly women of the community were the first to react. Mrs. Concepcion, a respected matriarch who, at 92 years old, still kept many of the local traditions alive, appeared at Anna's door carrying a small bundle of herbs. "Girl, I heard about the puppy that the sea sent you," said the old woman, entering without ceremony into the fisherwoman's simple house. "I brought some seaweed to make a tea. It strengthens eyesight, you know. My grandmother used to use it on fishermen's dogs." Although Anna had her doubts about the medicinal efficacy of the herbs, she didn't have the heart to refuse the old woman's kindness. Soon, other ladies began to appear, bringing amulets made of shells, small bags with mixtures of herbs, and even special foods that, according to them, were blessed by the sea. Mariner, despite his blindness, quickly adapted to his new home. Anna realized that, although he couldn't see, his other senses were extraordinarily sharp. He learned the way around the small house in just 2 days and seemed to recognize Anna's presence by the sound of her footsteps even before she opened the door. Meanwhile, in her luxurious penthouse suite in the only luxury hotel in the region, Caroline Vanderbilt nervously browsed social media on her tablet. Photos of the dog she had abandoned were everywhere, shared by almost every resident of Coastal Cove. The local news had done a touching story about the rescue, celebrating the courage of the fisherwoman Anna, already known for her generosity. Caroline gritted her teeth. This could ruin everything. Her project to build a luxury resort in the Environmental preservation area was already facing resistance from the fishing community. If they found out she had abandoned a helpless animal, her image would be irreparably tarnished. Without hesitation, she made a call. "I need you to find a dog," she ordered the private investigator she kept on her payroll. "And I need to know who this fisherwoman is. Find out everything about her." Days turned into weeks and Mariner became a true local celebrity. Visits from the elderly women with their beliefs and traditions became so frequent that Anna decided to establish a specific day to receive them. On Thursdays, her small house filled with ladies who brought stories, superstitions, and inevitably delicious treats for the blessed dog. It was during one of these meetings that Mrs. Concepcion, between sips of seaweed tea, commented on the upcoming festival. "The spring festival is coming, girl. You're going to take little Mariner for the blessing of the boats, aren't you?" Anna hesitated. The spring festival was one of the oldest traditions of Coastal Cove. Fishermen decorated their boats with flowers, shells, and colored ribbons, and sailed in procession along the coast, offering gifts to the sea, usually fruits and small, handcrafted artifacts, as thanks for the abundance and asking for protection for the following months. Although Anna had participated in the festival since she arrived in town, she had never felt completely part of it. "I don't know, Mrs. Conception. The festival organizers are very traditional. I don't know if they would approve of Mariner's presence." The old woman shook her head, her wrinkled face contorting into an expression of disapproval. "Nonsense. This dog was a gift from the sea. Denying his presence at the festival would be disrespecting the gift we received." The other ladies emphatically agreed, and Anna ended up giving in. She promised to take Mariner to the festival, without imagining that this would be the setting for the next major event in her life. The day of the spring festival dawned with an impeccably blue sky. The beach was filled with boats decorated with fresh flowers, colored ribbons, and small wooden sculptures representing marine creatures. The aroma of flowers mingled with the characteristic smell of the sea, creating a unique fragrance that could only be found there on that specific day of the year. Anna had decorated her modest boat with special care, incorporating small dog paws made of wood among the traditional ornaments, a discreet tribute to Mariner, who now rested comfortably in a small makeshift bed on the boat. What Anna didn't know was that this year, the festival had a special sponsor. Caroline Vanderbilt had made a generous donation to the event, ensuring not only prominence for her company, but also a place of honor in the authorities' tribune. It was a calculated strategy to improve her image with the community, especially after the growing rumors about her plans for the preservation area. The procession of boats began at noon, when the sun was high in the sky. One by one, the decorated boats left the pier, forming a colorful line that snaked along the coast. Local musicians on a larger boat played traditional songs, while the fishermen sang ancient melodies passed down from generation to generation. When it was Anna's boat's turn to enter the procession, something unexpected happened. Mariner, who had been quietly lying down until then, suddenly stood up, his ears perked. He began to bark frantically towards the authorities' tribune. Anna tried to calm him down, intrigued by his reaction. The dog had never behaved like this before. It was then that she noticed Caroline Vanderbilt among the authorities, her eyes fixed on the small dog, an expression of poorly disguised shock on her perfectly made-up face. At that moment, as if the sea wanted to reveal its secrets, Anna understood. Mariner's behavior confirmed her suspicions. He had recognized the voice or scent of his former owner. The woman who had thrown him off the bridge was just a few feet away, watching him with wide eyes. The procession continued, but a new plan began to form in Anna's mind. She needed to confront Caroline, not only for Mariner, but for the entire community threatened by the businesswoman's plans. At the end of the festival, when the boats returned to the pier and people gathered for the traditional beach party, Anna saw Caroline trying to discreetly walk away. Without hesitation, she picked up Mariner in her arms and followed in her direction. "Ms. Vanderbilt," Anna called out, her voice firm despite her racing heart. "I believe you and Mariner already know each other." Caroline turned slowly, her face a mask of studied indifference. "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about," she replied coldly. It's curious because Mariner seems to know your voice very well, continued Anna, noticing how the dog reacted, turning his head in the woman's direction. Perhaps we should ask Dr. Paul about the microchip he found, the one that identifies this dog as property of Caroline Vanderbilt? The color drained from the businesswoman's face. For a moment, she seemed genuinely shaken before regaining her composure. If you're implying that this is my dog, you're right, and I want him back, immediately. The imperious tone attracted the attention of the people around. Soon, a small crowd formed, watching the confrontation between the wealthy businesswoman and the local fisherwoman. "You threw him off the bridge," accused Anna, her voice trembling slightly with indignation. "I saw you. How can you want back an animal you tried to kill?" Caroline looked around, aware of the expressions of shock and disapproval that were beginning to appear on the faces of the onlookers. "This is absurd. I have no idea what you're talking about. My dog disappeared a few weeks ago and I'm relieved to find him." "Disappeared from your car on the bridge?" Anna asked sarcastically. "Falling directly into the sea?" The tension was palpable. Some residents murmured among themselves, looking at Caroline with suspicion. Others, especially those who depended on tourism to survive, seemed hesitant to take sides against such a powerful figure. It was Mrs. Concepcion who broke the deadlock. The old woman walked to the center of the circle that had formed, her steps slow but determined. She stopped between the two women and looked directly at Caroline. "This dog was a gift from the sea to our Anna," she declared, her voice trembling but strong. "And the sea never gives without reason, nor takes without purpose. If he was with you and is now with Anna, there is a greater reason that we do not yet understand." Murmurs of agreement arose among the elders. Local beliefs and superstitions were strong in Coastal Cove, especially related to the sea that dictated the rhythm of their lives. Caroline realized she was losing that battle. With a controlled sigh, she straightened her shoulders. "We'll settle this legally. I have documents proving that this dog belongs to me. We'll see each other in court." With these words, she quickly walked away, leaving Anna with Mariner in her arms and a mixed feeling of triumph and apprehension. The fisherwoman knew she didn't have the resources to face a legal battle against someone like Caroline Vanderbilt, but she also knew she couldn't simply hand over Mariner. In the days that followed, the confrontation at the festival became the main topic in the small town. Opinions were divided, but most supported Anna. Dr. Paul, concerned about the situation, suggested that they do some more tests on Mariner before any legal decision was made. "I want to better understand his condition," explained the veterinarian. "There's something in the previous exams that intrigues me." During this new battery of tests, Dr. Paul made a surprising discovery. Mariner did not suffer from any terminal or contagious disease, as suggested by his previous medical record signed by a veterinarian from the capital. In fact, his exams indicated that despite his blindness, he was exceptionally healthy. "This doesn't make sense," murmured the doctor, comparing the results with the medical record that Caroline had sent as part of her legal claim process. "According to these documents, Mariner should be suffering from a rare degenerative disease, potentially contagious to humans." Anna frowned. "Are you telling me that someone falsified his diagnosis?" "It seems so," confirmed Dr. Paul, a serious expression on his face. "And there's more. During the exams, I noticed something unusual in his behavior. Look at this." The veterinarian showed Anna a video he had recorded during the tests. In the video, Mariner was apparently calm when suddenly he began to get agitated, barking and running in circles. This happened approximately 2 hours before a sudden weather change that brought strong winds and rain. I thought it might be a coincidence, so I started monitoring him. In the last 3 days, he has shown the same agitated behavior about 1 to 3 hours before significant changes in weather or atmospheric pressure. Anna looked at Mariner with renewed admiration. "He can predict weather changes?" "Not only that," replied the veterinarian, excited. "I believe he can sense changes in water pressure and wave behavior. It's an extraordinary ability, Anna. He could save lives, warning about rough seas or storms before conventional instruments could detect them." The discovery gave Anna a new perspective on the case. It wasn't just a matter of keeping Mariner away from someone who had mistreated him. It was about using his special ability for the good of the community. The opportunity to prove Mariner's value arose sooner than Anna expected. A craft fair had been organized on the beach, attracting not only residents, but also tourists from neighboring towns. The day started sunny and calm, with no sign of bad weather. Anna, who sold small sculptures made with recycled materials from the sea, took Mariner with her. The dog had become a kind of mascot for her, accompanying her whenever possible. In the middle of the afternoon, when the fair was at its peak, Mariner began to exhibit the behavior that Dr. Paul had documented. He barked insistently, running from side to side, clearly agitated. Anna immediately remembered the veterinarian's observations. She looked at the sea. The surface was calm, with no visible signs of change, but she trusted Mariner's instinct. "We need to get out of here," she announced, starting to pack up her products. "There's going to be a rough sea or storm." Some vendors around her laughed, pointing to the clear sky. "Are you crazy, Anna? There isn't a cloud in sight." "Trust me," she insisted. "Mariner is never wrong about this." Most ignored her warning, but some people, especially the older fishermen, who respected the signs of nature, began to gather their belongings. Anna, determined, continued to warn everyone, citing Dr. Paul's observations and Mariner's previous behaviors that had accurately predicted weather changes. Finally, when some were starting to give in, the sky remained clear, but the dog was getting increasingly agitated. It was Mrs. Concepcion who noticed it first, a subtle change in the color of the water near the shore. "The sea is pulling back," murmured the old woman, her experienced gaze recognizing the signs. "The water is receding." Anna knew what that meant. A rough sea was forming, and when the water returned, it would come with devastating force. "Everyone get off the beach now!" she shouted, her voice full of urgency. This time, people listened. The evacuation began hastily, with vendors abandoning merchandise while helping the elderly and children move to higher ground. Less than 20 minutes later, the phenomenon manifested itself in all its force. A series of abnormally high waves hit the beach, sweeping away the abandoned stalls and everything else that had been left behind. If people were still there would certainly be casualties. News of the miracle spread quickly through the town and neighboring regions. The blind dog who had predicted the rough sea, saving dozens of lives, instantly became a local hero. Journalists from regional media appeared to cover the story, interviewing Anna and Dr. Paul about Mariner's special abilities. Caroline Vanderbilt watched it all from afar, her face an impenetrable mask as the reports multiplied. Her legal battle for the dog's possession had turned into a public relations nightmare. Now she was fighting to take a hero from the hands of a fisherwoman loved by the community. To make matters worse, an investigative journalist had begun to question Mariner's falsified diagnosis, making uncomfortable connections with the veterinarian who had signed the report, a professional who, coincidentally, provided services to several companies in the Vanderbilt group. With her popularity in free fall and her business threatened, Caroline realized she needed to change strategy. After a night of reflection, she made a surprising decision. The next morning, she appeared alone at Anna's modest house. No assistants, no lawyers, just an elegant woman standing hesitantly in front of the wooden door, weathered by sea salt. Anna received her with surprise and distrust, keeping Mariner protected behind her. "What do you want, Ms. Vanderbilt? Didn't your lawyers get what you wanted?" Caroline took a deep breath. "I came to propose something different," she said, her tone devoid of her usual arrogance. "I no longer want to fight for Mariner's possession. I want to offer a partnership." The fisherwoman raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Partnership? What kind of partnership could a woman like you want with someone like me?" "One that benefits everyone," replied Caroline, surprisingly sincere. "I want to transform part of my property into a rescue and training center for dogs with special needs, focused mainly on the detection of natural disasters. Mariner would be the first, but not the only one." Anna was momentarily speechless, trying to process the unexpected proposal. "Why would you do this? Why the sudden change of attitude?" Caroline hesitated, her eyes briefly diverting to the small dog who, despite not being able to see her, kept his ears perked in her direction. "Because you were right," she finally admitted. "I threw him off the bridge. I believed, based on the diagnosis I received, that he was sick, suffering, and that he could pose a risk to the people around him." The confession hung in the air between them like a living creature. Caroline continued, "Only later did I discover that the veterinarian who made the diagnosis worked for one of my real estate associates. He wanted me to get rid of the dog because he knew about his special ability. He feared that Mariner could predict and warn about the environmental changes that our resort would cause in the region." Anna processed the information slowly, her skepticism still evident. "Why should I believe you now?" "I don't expect you to believe or trust me immediately," replied Caroline, "but I offer concrete actions. The training center would be managed by you, with complete autonomy. I would provide the land and resources, but you would decide how they would be used." The proposal was tempting, but Anna felt divided. Accepting would mean collaborating with the person who had caused so much suffering to Mariner, someone whose real estate plans still threatened the traditional way of life of the fishing community. "I need to think," she finally said, "and consult some people." That night, she met with Mrs. Conception and other elderly women of the community. She told them about Caroline's proposal and asked for advice. Opinions were divided, but it was Mrs. Concepcion, with her wisdom acquired in more than 9 decades of life by the sea, who uttered the words that would be engraved in Anna's memory. "Sometimes, the sea returns what we throw into it transformed. What was trash becomes treasure. What was contempt becomes respect. Perhaps the sea has transformed not only Mariner's destiny, but also that woman's heart." After days of reflection, Anna decided to accept Caroline's proposal, but with rigid and clear conditions. The main one, the traditional fishing areas would be permanently preserved, without interference from any real estate development. Surprisingly, Caroline agreed to all conditions. The luxury resort project was reformulated, significantly reducing its size and environmental impact. In its place, the Sea Guardians Training Center was born. In the following months, the center became a reality. Dogs rescued from shelters, especially those with disabilities such as blindness or deafness, were trained to detect weather changes, assist the elderly, or simply offer therapeutic companionship. The program incorporated elements of local traditions, such as blessing rituals for the animals administered by Mrs. Concepcion and traditional navigation techniques taught by the most experienced fishermen. Anna and Caroline worked together daily, their relationship slowly evolving from distrust to mutual respect. They were different women in almost every aspect, but they shared an equal dedication to the project they had created. It was during the organization of documents for the center's official inauguration that Anna made a discovery that would change everything. Among the registration papers of the rescued dogs, she found an old photograph. In it, a young man wearing a sailor's uniform smiled at the camera, his arm around a pregnant woman. Anna immediately recognized the man. It was her father, who had abandoned her mother even before she was born. The photo had a date and an inscription on the back: Carlos and Elena, expecting Caroline. With trembling hands, Anna confronted Caroline with the photograph. "This man, do you know him?" Caroline took the photo, her eyes widening in recognition. "It's my father. He passed away 5 years ago." "He's also my father," revealed Anna, her voice almost a whisper. "He abandoned my mother when she was pregnant with me." The silence that followed was charged with conflicting emotions. The revelation that they were half-sisters, daughters of the same man who had abandoned both families, deeply shook the two women. "He abandoned us too when I was 7 years old," confessed Caroline after a long moment. "My mother always said he had the call of the sea. He could never stay in the same place for too long." Anna nodded, unshed tears glistening in her eyes. "My mother said something similar, that he belonged to the ocean more than to anyone." At that moment, something changed between them. It wasn't immediate forgiveness or reconciliation. The wounds were too deep for that. But there was a new understanding, an unexpected connection that neither of them could have foreseen. In the months that followed, Anna and Caroline worked side by side, building not only the Sea Guardian Center, but also a complicated sisterhood relationship. They were women with drastically different stories, personalities, and worldviews, united by an absent father, and by a small blind dog who, ironically, had helped them see beyond their differences. Mariner, now officially the first sentinel dog of the center, had become a symbol for the entire town. His ability to predict weather changes had been scientifically documented by Dr. Paul, attracting the attention of researchers and civil protection authorities. The small blind dog had inspired a program that now trained dozens of other rescued animals, many of whom would be sent to vulnerable coastal communities across the country. The maritime traditions of Coastal Cove, instead of being forgotten by tourist development, were incorporated and celebrated in the center's activities. Tourists now visited not only for the beautiful beaches, but to meet the sentinel dogs and learn about the local traditions of connection with the sea. 8 months after the incident on the bridge, the Sea Festival was celebrated with special meaning. In the same place where Caroline had thrown Mariner into the waters, a bronze statue was inaugurated. A small dog with his eyes turned to the ocean, as if he could see beyond the visible horizon. The plaque under the statue read simply, "For Mariner, who taught us that the sea always returns, in mysterious ways, what we deposit in it." During the inauguration ceremony, which attracted national attention, Anna and Caroline stood side by side. They were not close friends, perhaps they would never be, but they had found a common purpose and, more importantly, a family connection that neither of them ever expected to discover. Mrs. Concepcion, observing the two so different women united by extraordinary circumstances, smiled with the wisdom of the very old. The sea, in its infinite patience, had transformed an act of cruelty into a journey of redemption. It had transformed two strangers into sisters. It had transformed a small fishing community into a center of innovation and preservation. "The sea always returns," murmured the old woman to herself, as the waves broke gently against the shore. "In mysterious ways, the sea always returns."